And it's going to be green light racing here at Monza. Here goes Noah. He's going to try and go wheel to wheel with the leader. Vic once again back on the top step. We did say take it easy. Oh my goodness. Sinead's going to go for here into 14, 15. Side by side. Is it going to be Mercedes or is it going to be a BMW?
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another round of racing here in Phoenix SimSport. And today we are at the wonderful track of Donnington Park for our first night race of the season, the third race of the season, and the championship battle is on for today. I think it is. I don't actually see on the list right now our current championship contenders. But we have had 3 drivers fighting for the lead of the championship, and that would be Stuckrath, Friedrich, and Nico, all trading blows in the past few races. Friedrich had an unfortunate first race, Nico had a unfortunate second race, and that has left Julian in the lead of the championship, if I am not mistaken. Drivers right now are just starting their lap. We did cut to the middle of the outlap, so drivers are getting ready to set their laps. Going to be a difficult circuit for today. Donnington Park at night means the drivers will be having to deal with some quite low grip situations. Obviously, Donnington Park is already a track with lots of twists and winds, and you can see in just how Arced is taking these corners right now, just how tricky this race is going to be. And the low grip, obviously, from those night conditions, it's going to be cold, it's going to be slippery. Drivers are going to struggle to find the pace. But I don't think that is going to stop them from trying. And doing their best with the conditions. We'll see what the first initial laps are for today. I don't expect to see anything brilliant on these first few laps. The track is obviously going to be cold. Drivers are not going to find the pace right off the bat. Oh, there we go. Friedrich with the opening lap, a 1:26.6, immediately beaten by his teammate Stuckrath with a 1:26.1. We're going to see a 25 for qualifying today, probably a mid-25 if the hot laps this week are anything to go by. But they are not always to go by. There's no guarantee that the track conditions right now will be as good as they could possibly be. And obviously the conditions will better as qualifying goes on. Drivers will lay down more rubber. They'll be able to warm up both the tires and the track surface itself. Track surface temperature is the biggest influencing factor for this qualifying session, I would say. Big improvement for the Porsche driver, Antonio. I believe Antonio was quite far up at the grid at Moza's car off on the left, not having the best run of it. Hutema, another driver who has been racing with us for quite a while. I don't think he's been on the grid in the past few races. He has the red nameplate, so I think a little bit of a mistake with the nameplates, because I definitely recognize him as a driver. He was here for Season 7 of Phoenix SimSport, and he's finally back on track for our Donnington race. McLaren in front of him is going to make his run down the straightaway a little bit quicker, but possibly hold him up for his hot lap. And that is absolutely what we are seeing. You can see the relative best on the left-hand side of your screen right now, as Stukrath is currently on pace to improve his quality lap. 0-0 right now, though, so he does lose just a little bit of time out of the corner. I don't actually recognize which corner he's at, but I certainly recognize it now as he goes through the chicane of turn 9, I think technically turn 10 as well, and dives into what is one of the more awkward corners on track. This hairpin is very, very difficult to get right. You can see it a little bit in the background there. That hairpin is a lot wider than it appears. So while a normal hairpin would be more like this corner, that other one sort of squares in the middle and ends up with a very awkward double apex. 25.992. Not going to be the fastest lap of the day, but it is going to hold Julian in a very nice P1 pole position. I have been informed that Julian and I think Friedrich as well are not going to be here for the full season. Nico is not here for this race, so I wonder if we're going to see that sort of balance out and the two, the three championship rivals all be absent at about the same time. I believe that is Flynn just in front of Stukrath. Finally got the liveries working, so everyone's livery should appear on stream. I'll have to make sure after the race that everyone's did appear, but I'm almost certain that is Flynn in front with the wonderful Haas livery on his Aston Martin. He was running it last race. We weren't able to see it last race, but we can absolutely see it now as he goes flying down into the hairpin. The very, very tricky hairpin. You can just see already, look at how wide that corner is. And that's what trips up a lot of drivers. You're not necessarily going to notice how wide that corner is when you first go through it, but you'll notice it if you look in our perspective. And that is that's the biggest difference in what drivers will be seeing compared to what we can see. Is we get a better overview of the track. As Oliver Flynn is going to set his personal best lap, a 1:31.057. So not a terrible lap. He can certainly improve on it, and he will aim to in these next few laps. But right now he's on a 0-0, so he has some potential to gain later on. P6 on improvement, 0.5 up on their lap, 0.4 now, might be 0.3 by the end of the straightaway. So losing a little bit of time on exit, but hopefully going to gain it back through the final corner. And they do gain a little bit of time. That'll put them up into P3. Points go all the way down to P20, so drivers down in P20 will score points, although they will score far less points than the drivers in P1, P2, P3. It's 50 points for P1, and I believe only 1 point for P20. So that should tell you a little bit about the points distribution. A difference between the top 5 is all 5 points separating them. 3 points for the top 10, I believe 2 points for the top 15, and 1 point separating all of the other positions just beneath that. Could be mistaken on that. I'll have to look and see my reference, but I don't think I'm mistaken there. I might be mistaken, but it's hard to tell with just the guide I have, because it's not the best guide I could have gotten. Hello, Shanae. Welcome to the stream. I did see your message. I just didn't get around to responding to it. I thought you were on track today. Another driver on big improvement. Elijah going through, I think, the final sector? No, middle sector, as they cross through that chicane. Dark conditions do make it a little bit trickier for the drivers to tell where they are, and especially trickier for us to tell where they are as we go jumping through different perspectives and different corners. I may well be able to set it up so I can see what corner they're at makes my job easier. But going through across the line, Elijah will improve, but it's not enough to bring them up a position. They do need another 0.178 of a second in order to improve their position. And even then, I think they would need 0.1 over that if they are going to improve and take a position away from their rivals. But not a whole lot of improvement for the top runners right now. Kevin Barfield is the next driver on big improvement, and as he crosses the line, he will go up to P9. So a good position increase for him. And you may notice drivers cut into that pit exit when they are setting their lap times. Speaking of setting lap times, that's Julian going still P1 with a 1:25.915. So good improvement for him. Yellow flag up ahead. That's Kevin Barfield off the track. And Kevin Barfield returning to the pit lane. I think Vova right now getting a white flag. I don't actually know why. Throat is a little bit dry this morning. And I think the mic just peaked there. Throat is a little bit dry this morning. So do forgive me if the commentary sounds a little bit rough. That's Flynn giving away, letting Vova continue on their lap. Although I think Vova is on an out lap right now, so it's not like Flynn was required to give way. Obviously, drivers only need to give way if the driver behind them is on a hot lap, and they are not on a hot lap. But in this case, Flynn has decided, hey, I'm not quicker, I can stay behind, try to improve my own pace, try to improve my own gap. It's the wise thing to do when you are in their position, as you can follow the cars in front, get a little bit of a slipstream, and that slipstream will allow you to get a faster lap than you would have otherwise. You'll see teammates do a similar thing, where the driver in front is slightly quicker, but they're not going to go full pace. They're going to stay just close enough that the driver behind them gets a nice slipstream, can improve their lap time, and I mean, you'll often see that making the difference between 1/10 of a second and maybe even 2 or 3/10 of a second, depending on the track. Here at Donnington, I don't think we're going to see much slipstream strategy come into play. There's really not the straightaways for you to set any amazing lap times. Friedrich was temporarily on the pole position delta, but he is not right now. Currently on a 0-0. He needs to gain 0.14 of a second, 0.141 of a second if he wants to take away the position. Otherwise, matching the lap time exactly will not promote you up the position. It will simply set you into the position directly behind them, as the other driver was the one to set it first. Now, we haven't seen it this season where drivers set the exact same lap time, but we have seen it in the past where drivers set the exact same lap time, as Friedrich will go wide, set himself up for a nice exit. Aborting the lap, he was 0.2 down. He needs to gain a 0.1, so he is going to push hard and try to improve much as he can, as Julian improves the lap time to beat by another 0.5, and that will make Friedrich's job just that little bit trickier. It's not a lot of time, but when you're running near the front of the field, a single 10th is a lot of time. That's why you'll see a lot of the gaps separated at the top are like 0.1 of a second, 0.2 of a second. You rarely see more than that, and right now it's 0.2 of a second, so proving my point. Friedrich was on improvement, now he is on a 0-0. Zero-zero is not necessarily a bad thing. It does mean the driver is not improving, but it also means that they are on par with their personal best. Your personal best is not always going to be surpassed in a single corner, and sometimes it is going to be surpassed in a single corner. In this case, It looks like Friedrich probably was a little bit slow through his final sector, because he did improve a little bit there. Did drop off the pace. If your personal best was really good in Sector 1, really good in Sector 2, but really bad in Sector 3, as long as you can match your personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, your Sector 3 time, as long as it's not a bad lap, will be better, and you'll improve your lap time despite what you might claim to be not a great lap, as Friedrich invalidates going off the track and will return to the pit lane, leaving him up for grabs if Arct can improve by 0.3 of a second. Technically 0.4 of a second. It's not an easy job for the BMW driver who has not done a 25 yet. He will need to do a 25 second, or 1 minute 25 second lap time if he does want to take away Friedrich's P2 position. As we go through turn 9, turn 10, and down into the hairpin of turn 11. Arct not on an improvement just yet, but there is still potential. Very awkward corner there, very hard to get hard on the power, and not gaining much lap time. Right now, we are seeing quite a bit of difference in the overall top speed of the drivers. I think our top speed right now is 235 kilometers per hour on the back straight. Should be the back straight. So drivers not achieving the fastest top speed, but there is quite a big disparity in the top speed of several of the drivers. Wondering if maybe my system is not reading it properly or what, because a couple drivers have top speeds well below what they should. But that is besides the point. Arct is on a 0-0 lap time, and as we were talking about before, that's not necessarily a bad thing, as he goes through turn 8 and onto turn 9 for the second to last time. He will only be able to get 1, maybe 2 more laps in. He would have to get to the line quite quickly now. You can see in the top left, only 2 minutes left in qualifying. That's not a huge amount of time for drivers to set a lap. Arct might just barely make it to the line in time. They need a minute 26 on the timer before or after they cross the line. Otherwise, they will not get their lap done in time to do another lap. And Arct will be able to do 2 more laps, given he has the fuel for it. Andrew just behind him is on improvement, and that will be enough to threaten Arct for P4. At this rate, might be enough to threaten for P2, but Andrew just runs a little bit wide, taps the grass, and it's not going to be improvement for him. He's going to go sliding off the track. He will have an opportunity to set 1 more lap time if he's quick to the line. Should be plenty of time for him to get to the line, but that's unfortunate. We did see 0.5 of a second improvement for him, which would have been enough for him to take P2. So unfortunately, just running a little bit of wide is going to cost him a huge amount of lap time and a huge potential lap time. So now into this final corner, turn 12, I do believe. Donnington, of course, 12 turn track. So quite a bit of, as he slows down, ooh, pulls in front of the Ferrari. Did not know if that Ferrari was on a lap or not. I think that is Sarabin, the bluey Ferrari just behind. So Andrew will be desperate to get the same lap time that he had on the table before. Ferrari is quick here. This is a good track for the Ferrari, good track for the McLaren, a great track for the Porsche. Not so good for the Fords, but the Fords are being driven to the extreme right now, as well, both Fords are taking P1 and P2 respectively. Andrew has potential though to overthrow that happy little team composition at the front. As Stuckrath is on improvement, Friedrich is not on improvement, which means Friedrich is not going to be able to defend his position if Andrew gains the lap time that he could have gained. This could get interesting as we go through turn 9 and turn 10, the chicane. It's not improvement for Andrew, though. I don't think any of the top 4, top 5, top 6, top 7, and top 8, even all the way down to the top 10, no one is on improvement. So these final, very critical laps of qualifying are not being capitalized on by these drivers. The only driver on improvement right now is the Porsche in P19, who is on 0.1 of a second, now 0.0, so no drivers on the grid are in an improvement. No drivers will improve on the final lap of qualifying. Everyone has messed it up. Everyone returns to the pit lane. And that is going to be the end of the qualifying session, I do believe. Trying to find the right camera. Here we are. So there is our results for quali. I don't think we're going to see anything different as we go on board with Stuckrath. His livery is quite hard to see. I think his pit box is in the dark right now, so that does mean it's quite difficult to see what his livery looks like in these conditions, as ACC happily decides to block our entire screen. There we are. Much, much better. But yeah, that is our qualifying positions right now. You can see the quali laps that the drivers did set a 1:25.82. It's not quite the lap time we were expecting. Could have gone faster. I know Stuckrath had at one point 0.1, 0.2 of a second improvement, so he could have done about a 25.6, 25.7, but a 25.8 is plenty to take pole position right in front of his teammate Friedrich in that number 999 Ford, running the exact same livery, parked parallel to the pit lane, so a little bit of a different position for the Ford driver. Wonder if he clicked drive or something. Just make sure everything is selected properly for the stream. I know ACC has some problems with it. But we will just do a grid walk now to go through all of the drivers on the track. Obviously, there is Stuckrath taking P1 at Ford, and it will be his teammate Friedrich in P2. Arced in P3 in that 88 BMW, so we expect to see big things from him. Andrew in P4 with the potential to take P2, but just missing out. Serubin in the in the Ferrari. I think the automatic grid walk is a little bit too quick for me, but I don't think I can stop it. There we go. So we'll go through. There we go. On to the bluey Ferrari of Serubin, and we have Vova in P6 in that 304 Ferrari. Nice livery. I think it is sort of inspired by the Mercedes livery, so very nice. The number 4 McLaren, I don't think that is a custom livery. I believe that is an in-game, but I can be wrong about that. And that is Just Shay showing up for the race. I don't think Just Shay has been on the grid this season yet, so we welcome him onto the track. Elijah in P8 with the number 40 Ferrari. Oliver Flynn in P9 with the number 95 Aston Martin. His livery is showing up properly now, so that is nice. The number 92 of Kevin Barfield, very, very dark livery, going to be difficult to see on stream. Ivanov in P11, whose livery also shows up now, so I got that corrected. And Kelly in P12. I'm having some weird graphical issues, but I don't think it's showing up on the stream, so I think we're fine. Kelly in the 91. I believe that is the old Italian Stallion livery, so very nice to see that car back on track. The number 30 of Hutema, Hutama, of course, has raced with us before, although I don't think he has run a full season. Yes, Durg, his livery is showing up properly. Everything is all good. It was an issue on my end. Awesome Sim Racing wasn't downloading them properly. Thondir in P14 with the number 10 Porsche. Very nice livery. Always a fan favorite on the track. Chinmay with the number 22 McLaren. Don't think they have a custom livery. Again, just another black livery. Very, very difficult to see in these conditions. Joe Viper in P16 with the number 96 Aston Martin. Wonderful livery to see on track. A variation on his team's livery. Green instead of blue. So his teammate a little bit farther up the road. The number 77 Porsche with an in-game livery. Don't think they have a custom. Could be wrong, but another Anthony on the grid, or an Anthony on the grid. I don't think we have another Anthony on the grid. Not in this championship. The number 95 Rusty's McLaren, always a fan favorite as well. I personally love the way that the 95 livery transfers over to the McLaren, and Webby rocks it well. Number 969 Porsche in P18. Very nice blue coloration to contrast against the dark livery. Will be quite hard to see, but thankfully the lights will make our job just that little bit easier. Number 33 of Rodriguez in P19. And brand new driver to the grid. I don't actually know how to pronounce your last name. Ozduro? I think it's Ozduro. Do correct me if I am mistaken. But that is the 444 Aston Martin. So rounding out our points drivers. Outside of the points, just barely, is Flynn in that number 25 Aston Martin with a wonderful Haas-inspired livery. Or I should just say Haas livery, as it's a little bit more than inspired. I think you can see Phoenix SimSport on the number plate, though. So still rocking some of his own flair, despite it being an F1 livery. The number 424 Aston Martin, and I believe this is the old Aston Martin with some wonderful sounds. V12 Aston Martin. And rounding out the drivers on the grid is not Kevin Barfield, because Kevin... No, it's not clicking over. Kevin Barfield in the number 92 BMW in P23. And that will round out our front of grid, as we'll go just on board with the leader for the formation lap. Going to be a long formation lap. Drivers will have to go around the full track. Plenty of opportunity for them to warm up their tires and get their cars into their operating temperature. Obviously, racing car brakes and tires don't work if you are too cold or too hot. Very finicky and like a very specific range of temperature and condition. I have some odd visuals on my screen right now, but it's not showing up on stream, so that will be an issue for me to sort out later. But, yeah, totally unbiased, are you? I do think the livery looks quite nice. It is a good looking livery, especially for a racing car. It's got that real life feel, whereas some other liveries don't feel quite like they fit into the game of ACC. Some of them feel, well, I suppose they do fit into the game, but they feel more gamey than they feel real. Real life liveries tend to have a lot going on all over the car, and that's certainly what you see in the 570 of that bluey Ferrari. So, pleasure to see it on track. And hopefully we'll see Serubin move forward on track and take a few positions. Driver just in front of them, though, has proved that they have the pace to set some very quick laps. So it will be a challenge Friedrich starting side by side with Julian. I don't know if we're going to see the two teammates fight into turn 1. We will go on board with Friedrich in case he is challenged. Of course, the BMW behind should be quite good on the start. Ford recently went through a few changes in ACC, so it is a little bit more sluggish than it used to be, a little bit heavier, a little bit worse under braking. We will get ready to go green here for round 3 of Phoenix Sim Sport. And it's green, 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 and away we go. It's a good launch for the two Fords, a bad launch for Arct as he's under threat. The bluey Ferrari going side by side, and Andrew getting a great run around the outside of Arct, holding it side by side through turn 1, nearly off the track, but now it's going to be Arct with that little bit of extra straight line speed pulling out in front. Andrew staying relegated to P4, and Sarabin not making up a position on the start. I think Josh Shea might have jumped Volva on the start and moved forward into P6, but I could be mistaken about that. So Arct holding his P3 position, and Andrew behind trying to challenge, now being challenged by the bluey Ferrari, as Sarabin runs just a little bit wide, will get a better exit, but won't get a good run out of the corner. So while they did hold more speed, they're not going to be able to challenge into the chicane, and that's going to make Andrew's life just that little bit easier, as he doesn't have to worry about a threat here, but he might have to worry about a threat into the hairpin. That's a good launch from the bluey Ferrari, but just not enough to take the position. Andrew getting very, very close to the back of the BMW. Arct is under threat here if he wants to hold on to that position. P3, of course, is a great result. That is a podium finish, and you will no doubt be fighting hard to hold on to that podium. But it is Julian leading ahead of Friedrich, ahead of Arct, ahead of Andrew, and then Sarabin rounding out our top 5. Just Shea in P6, Vova in P7, Ivanov P8, Elisha P9, and Kelly in P10 for our top points finishers. Hutama in P11, Oliver in P12, Sashi in P13, Webby in P14, making up a fair few positions, I do believe, and Viper in P15. So we are away and going for a wonderful round of racing here at Donnington Park. Drivers will need to make a pit stop at least once this race if they do want to avoid the pit stop penalty. And there is really no reason not to. The strategy today will almost certainly be to change tires, but I foresee some drivers maybe foregoing this option. Obviously, with it being as cold as it is, drivers will be able to preserve their tires just a little bit more than they otherwise would, and that could be all the difference that they need in order to play into strategy and just take a position away from their opponents. Obviously, Donnington Park is a difficult track to overtake on, not the easiest thing in the world, so drivers will be having to think quite a bit about when they want to pit and what they want to pit for. You can see just how much speed they can carry through this first little section. Very tricky section of track, as they went through the old hairpin and down into turn 6. A lot of corners here at Donnington Park are taken flat out. They're not quite corners. Some would consider them straightaways, but for the purpose of actually naming the track, they are considered to be different corners, all with their own quirks and balances. Vova is quite close behind Just Shea, P6 and P7 respectively. We could see a fight for position here as Friedrich drops down a position. So Friedrich challenging into the hairpin, challenging his teammate into the hairpin. Will he dive down the inside? No, he will think better of it. But we'll just go back and see what we missed. I didn't expect the two teammates to fight at all, but I think well, Friedrich did take P1, so Sukrath must have made a mistake, and I guess Friedrich was handing back the position here. As, yeah, he is going to brake nice and early, slot in behind his teammate. So I think Sukrath might have went off the track, lost a bit of time, and now Friedrich just returned the position to his teammate. Could be mistaken. I think Friedrich has the lights off on the front of the car. So, interesting choice there. Unless those are the lights, in which case, very strange headlights on the front of that Ford. Whoever was in charge of designing those definitely had fun putting those tiny little squares for lights instead of using the entire light. Guess they are bright for a reason.
Hello.
Hello! No incidents on
sleep
the first
already?
lap, was there?
One small incident. Kevin lost it on the braking.
And
Did you see it?
Elijah, well, speaking of, Elijah's going to go side by side through the hairpin to take P8. It's still still side by side. Apologies. And Elijah runs wide, losing out not only on the position to Ivanov, but losing the position to Kelly as well. So a big mistake there from the Ferrari driver. Yeah, I'm having an issue with my throat today. It's quite dry. I might need to go grab some water. But Elijah drops down to P10, and now he will have to fight back both to the position that he was and the position that he could have been if he wants to end up where he had been only moments prior. So unfortunate for him, just running wide, losing out on the position, and that will cost him. Kevin Barfield makes up the position to Webby into what was P4, or turn 4, sorry. And that will be him up to P16. Webby dropping back, so I think Webby may have made a mistake, lost some pace, but now that leaves the open opportunity for Emir. Emir? I don't quite know how to pronounce it. And Arthur going off the track, losing positions to Kevin, Webby, and Oster. So unfortunate incident for him. I don't actually know what happened there, but probably just drifted wide, lost a bunch of speed, and got past. We were on board with the driver who passed him though, and I didn't see him on the side of the track. Quite close between P4 and P3 right now. Still close between P17 and P16. So we'll stay on board and keep an eye out. Gaps right now are separating a little bit. Drivers will, of course, not be able to fight as closely on this track as they might do on other tracks. But speaking of close battling, that is the Aston Martin and the Ferrari side by side. And I believe that was Elijah losing the position. So making a mistake. Caution sign there for the yellow flag. Making a mistake out of, I think, the first corner. Just running wide onto the grass and losing the position. And I think we're going to see a lot more drivers doing that. As that seems to be the story of the day, is drivers are losing positions because they're just going off track and tapping the grass. And I mean, that makes a huge difference for pace at Donnington Park. Would you not agree, Yuzubi?
It does. Donnington is not about, look, it's not one of those tracks where there's a lot of opportunities to make a move, but you can gain a lot of time by being consistent and not making mistakes and waiting for other people's mistakes. So that's what it's going to be about today. It's going to be about consistency. I think it's what we are seeing from the top two especially. We don't see that gap going down, but we are seeing a consistent pace between those two. And I think there is 3 groups today, basically.
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunities to make a move, but there's certainly a lot of opportunities to make a mistake. And then
Exactly.
that's where we're going to see the biggest difference between the front and the back of the grid. Is less so about the pace, but more so about the consistency.
gonna be interesting because I think we have 3 groups today in the race. We have Lucas and Julian fighting for the top places, almost for sure. Then there is kind of a roadblock behind Hark right now, with I think between 3 or 4 drivers there. We're gonna have a good fight for the podium, the last podium position.
And speaking of, Andrew's going to go side by side with Arc through the hairpin. A late dive from the Ferrari. We just caught the tail end of that. Still side by side, I think, going into the second hairpin. And that's going to be Arc holding his P3 slot. But the Ferrari is going to get a run, so Arc is going to have to defend if he wants to hold onto this position. He's going to open up the inside. Is Andrew going to dive for it? He thinks about it, and he is going to dive down the inside, side by side through turn 1. I think they might have touched doors there. Andrew losing just a little bit of pace, sliding out of that first corner, and now that allows Surubin to close in on the 2 drivers in front, really making that P3 battle closer than it needs to be. Vova going side by side out of the first corner. If the camera would switch, we can see very, very close behind the McLaren, almost contact, but just about holds on to the position. And Vova now stuck in P7, still trying to fight back, trying to take back the position from Just Shay. I don't know if Just Shay gained it on the start, but I think Just Shay may well have jumped Vova at the start of this race. We can check the position deltas here in a minute. Very, very close between the drivers right now. And yeah, you can see it in the deltas right now. Vova did lose this position initially, so Vova is the faster driver as they try to make a dive down the inside of the chicane. It's not going to be enough. Just Shay's not going to open the door, and Vova's going to tap the back of the McLaren as they get a bad exit out of the corner. And that's going to be Just Shay spinning off the track. Oliver, Hutema, and Kelly all gaining the position to Just Shay. Ivanov as well gaining the position. And Just Shay is going to get moving again eventually, but that is going to be a costly mistake for Vova, and a costly mistake that Just Shay is going to have to pay the price for. Andrew side by side with Art through the first corner, trying to move down the inside again. The BMW holding it around the outside. Good run from the BMW, good run from the Ferrari. It's going to be side by side still as they go down this first little straight through Hollywood, down into Craner Curves, and around the fast right-hander of the old hairpin, turn 4, and it's going to be Andrew stuck in P4 still, now under threat from the bluey Ferrari of Sarabin, who is very, very close behind both the drivers right now, trying to make the move, trying to make the best of the opportunity they have just been given, but it's not enough for them to take the position, and they settle down into P5. Still very, very close between the drivers, and I think Art doesn't have the pace right now over Andrew. He got a really good qualifying lap, but he's just out of the zone right now. And not being in that zone is costing him a lot of lap time. Andrew proved that he had the potential in qualifying to be one of the fastest drivers on this track, and dives down the inside yet again. Arc just leaving the door open. He's going to try and hang it around the outside. It's not going to be enough, and now Arc is under threat from the bluey Ferrari just behind. Sarabin trying to make the move, but didn't quite have the run out of the hairpin in order to get side by side. Now that's arced into P4, and I think Andrew's probably going to run away with it unless the slipstream is quite influential here. We're going to see down into turn 1 whether or not Arc can make the move, and it's not going to be so. So that is Arc stuck in P4 for now. Andrew moving himself into P3 and trying to chase down Friedrich just in front. Friedrich with the fastest lap right now, closing in on his teammate. I don't think the two are going to battle, but we're going to see possibly Sarabin and Arc battle for P4. So quite a fight here at Donnington Park. Arc just leaving the door open repeatedly. I can't help but feel that was a mistake. Andrew kept sending it down the inside. It wasn't his first time, it wasn't his second, it wasn't even his third. That was probably the 4th or 5th time he had been in that position, and just never closed off that inside line. Not aggressive enough from the BMW driver, and that certainly cost him the position more so than anything else would. Kelly close on the back of Ivanov for P7. Tries to look for a move around the outside, around the inside. Not going to be space on either side as that Lamborghini making himself as wide as possible. Webby gains the position to Joe Viper, but we're going to stay on board with Kelly, see if he makes a dive into the hairpin. Ivanov with a good line. Kelly with a good line. Ollie behind, losing just a little bit of time. Kelly gets a better exit than the Lamborghini driver in front. It's possibly going to be a good run through the final corner. No, he has to brake just a little bit to stay behind as Ivanov doesn't get quite the entry Kelly was expecting, and that's going to be Kelly losing a whole bunch of pace down this first straightaway and now stuck behind the Lamborghini for yet another lap. Not able to make the move and relegated to being stuck in P8. Going off onto the grass might be a track limits warning for him. And we talked a little bit about that during briefing. We didn't talk about it at all for the stream so far, but turn 1 is quite brutal for track limits. Going wide of that corner, even just a little bit, is enough for you to get a track limit warning. And those warnings will stack up quickly. They will add up to a drive-through penalty. And a drive-through would absolutely ruin a race here at Donnington Park. With it being so difficult to make overtakes, so difficult to recover. You'll see it in Just Shay. Just Shay got spun out despite being one of the faster drivers on track today. He's still stuck in P11. Not gaining that much, not making that much. And Arct trying the very late move on Andrew, trying to take back that position. So Arct still fighting back, holding in that slipstream. And that may well have made the difference for the pace difference between Arct and Andrew. They're setting the same pace. That slipstream is all you need in order to make that big of a difference. I think GOVEE is still here. No, he's not. GOVEE, of course, is one of the stewards for the race, helping just keep everything going smooth. This race is not live stewarded, but it is post-race stewarded. But they are doing the stewarding now, that way it's all nice and smooth. But it does mean if there is any big incidents, we should be able to get some insight on it and what the potential penalties will be for what drivers, which will give us a much better insight into the race results after the fact. Last race results, for the most part, weren't changed by penalties. The top 3 were all the exact same. Top 4, top 5, I think, all stayed the same. Could be mistaken, but should generally stay the same, long as drivers aren't doing anything silly. For the most part, if you get penalized for an incident, you've already lost time from that incident. And it's almost certain that you're not going to be in those top positions when you are involved in those incidents. I've been wrong. And we had, at the beginning of the season, P1 did get penalized in that first race. They didn't lose the position. They nearly did, though. And that would have played into the impact of the penalties. Elijah is the first driver to pit only 20 minutes into the race, not even 20 minutes into the race. It may well be too early to pit, but if they are not changing tires, then absolutely pit early. Get yourself a full tank of fuel and just cruise on home to the win. I think personally, if you're not going to change tires, you pit as late as possible, though. Just get as much run time on as little fuel as possible for as long as possible. It'll preserve your tires, it'll preserve your race, and will generally make everything a lot smoother if you do that, well, if you do your stints with less fuel in the tank. Race has smoothed out a lot. I think gaps are starting to develop.
Have you seen the fight for P3 and the fight for P8?
I have, but it's sort of separated right now. I mean, there's a second gap between P3, P4, and 4 and 5. It's nearly out of the slipstream, which does mean that Arct is going to have to push a little bit if he wants to stay with Andrew in P3. Kelly has the pace, but Kelly keeps making mistakes and running off the road. Like even there, it runs off the road, loses time, and drops back to the gap he had before. So Ivanov while he's not setting as good a pace as Kelly, is driving more consistent. And that's what we were talking about earlier. Consistency is key, especially for Donnington Park. Other tracks, of course, same motto goes, but Donnington especially, where it's so easy to make those mistakes, so easy to just run wide, just catch yourself onto that grass. That's going to be the big influencing factor here that drivers will need to watch out for.
And also don't forget that consistency is going to be important because of also track limits. It's very easy to get warnings on that chicane, especially.
The chicane, the first corner, there's two very tricky sections of track where you can very easily get yourself a penalty. And a single penalty and you're out of the race. I mean, there is hardly any coming back from a penalty today.
From a drive-through, yeah, it's very difficult.
You saw the incident with Vova and Joshe,
Yes,
proving
we just saw it, yeah.
just how hard it is to recover after you have been pushed backwards of the field. And I mean, Joshe is still in P11. He hasn't been able to push forward despite being the quicker driver in that section of track.
Oh, we have a move from P16. They just make the overtake.
And yeah, it's a good dive from the driver. We'll go back in the replay to see how Chinmay took P16 away. Don't think anyone else is going to make a move just yet, but hopefully we don't miss anything. Otherwise, we can always reverse a little bit for it. I'm not perfect. Trying to keep track of 20 drivers on track all at the same time is difficult enough, and it is what I suspected. Just a late dive down into the hairpin. Ooh, a little bit rough out of the hairpin. Don't know if that was on the 22 of Chinmay or if the car behind turned in a little bit. That will be up to stewards to decide what happened there. As Kelly making a big mistake, losing a bunch of time to Ivanov yet again. It's pretty consistent mistakes from the Ferrari driver, that Italian stallion driver. So hopefully we'll see some nicer driving soon as he gets into that second stint. Obviously, for drivers, the pit stop is sort of a mental refresh. It's where you either make or break a race. I know you have talked a little bit about that, Yuzubi, where you don't like to pit so early because it sort of gets you out of the flow, but for some drivers, I think it gets them into the flow. As a very late dive from Elijah to overtake Oliver Flynn. Oliver Flynn might have given way there. They are not fighting for the same position. Elijah has pitted, Flynn has not. But I know you personally, Yuzubi, you like to pit later on. It helps you keep in the race and not get out of the flow. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, look, when you get the flow, you need to keep it basically. When you are feeling that we have the pace, and you see that your delta not losing time over after each lap, you should try to extend your stint. Except, of course, if the guys you're fighting are trying to undercut you. On that case, you need to answer them. Otherwise, I think always it's good to keep a longer stint, especially on ACC, that we know that the tires going to go more than an hour. And because of this type of races, typically an hour long, there is not a lot of tire strategy going on. The undercut sometimes is powerful, but also the overcut, so it really depends on your consistency and your pace.
We'll see today, because Elijah is attempting the undercut. They pitted about 18 minutes into the race, so I mean, we barely got into the event before they decided to pit. I don't know if they changed tires or not, though. That is my question. Because if you change tires, there's really no reason to pit so early. Maybe 20 minutes in, maybe 25 minutes in. It's a little bit late for the undercut. I don't know if it's gonna work.
And about pitting earlier, like, one of the good reasons sometimes to pit earlier is exactly about consistency. If you don't have the pace sometimes, because you start middle of the field and you didn't get the space to actually get to the pace, it can actually help you to pit and like kind of reset your pace. It's actually a good solution sometimes.
I can officially confirm now, Elijah did not pit for tires. Elijah is doing a no tire strat. In fact, their pit
Well,
time is phenomenal. As according to my sheet, it's saying they pitted with 20 stationary time of 22 seconds, 0.5. But they have served their pit stop, so.
well, the only problem that you have and Elijah is going to have today is going to be traffic, basically. That's always a problem when pitting earlier. If you get stuck on behind someone that is slow or a group of cars that is fighting, the strategy is going to go to hell with it because it's not going to work. You're going to start losing time, your pace is going to drop, you're going to start losing consistency. So,
And I will point out, we just had a pit stop at the front of the grid.
yeah, we saw.
So that does mean that it's sort of hammer time for Arct.
It
He
should. If you have the pace, is the moment.
he
But
needs to set the pace in order to protect himself from Sarabin. Otherwise, he's going to lose that position. Because Sarabin obviously
yeah,
was a little bit faster, was able to keep up, which does mean Arct is now under threat. He either pits early and defends, or he pits late and holds his pace. I think his best strategy here is probably to pit early.
the pro, and also because the fact that from what we could see since the beginning of the race, Ark has been losing a little bit of pace because we can just see how 84 just overtook him and now start creating a gap on clean air. So, and again, the pit stop game is an interesting one always. I know from personal experience that you like to go with undercuts most of the times.
Ooh, Arct getting caught up with a blue flag driver there.
Yep.
That's quite close.
But again, it was not close, it was actually contact, so.
Oh, that could play influence to the race.
Yeah, look, the pit stop game is always interesting, especially when you know that you are on the top 5 positions. Even when you want to do an undercut, it's gonna be difficult if the field doesn't have the same pace as you, because if you pit before the middle of the field, you're gonna be behind them and most likely blocked and lose time. So when you're talking about me going late on my pits most of the times, that is one of the reasons. It's because I don't want to get stuck on the middle of the field, so I just wait for everyone to pit and I pit after that. Because you know how some races go to the line, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I enjoy the undercut. I like the early pit stops. You spend more time early in the race on better tires, and it usually means the latter half of the race is just that little bit trickier, but it's also in a sense easier, as you have more of a gap to the cars behind. You've already secured yourself positions. You just have to defend. There's a car leaving the pit lane very, very slowly. I think just a little bit tentative for the Porsche driver, as Kelly, again, making that mistake through the first corner. I gotta wonder if he's done that every single lap this race, because I don't think I've seen a single time where he hasn't just run wide of that first corner. And it's costing him so much lap time. He is the quicker driver when it comes to pace compared to Ivanov, but those mistakes are absolutely killing his pace and turning what is quick into something much slower.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before the race. We saw that Kelly was struggling a little bit today. I think it's track related and he's suffering a little bit from the track. It's not quite easy for him. And unfortunately, he's not being. I think he's over pushing, overdoing it. So it's one of those where you know that you are off. So just try to keep it clean, keep it on the road, try to get the best result possible.
And that's, I mean, that's in part to what I was talking about earlier with the pit stops. that mental refresh can help when you are in that position. I know at least I personally, Hutama dives into the pit lane. Lots of drivers in the pit lane. I know I personally, if I'm ever driving off like that, it usually fixes itself with a good pit stop. Long as you can get stationary, get refreshed, have those points on track where you can go, hey, get it together, break here, get back on the line, get back into the pattern, then you're good. But a track like Donnington, you really don't have a lot of reset points where you can say, okay, I'm at this part of the track, it's a brand new lap, let's just go from the top, because Donnington all connects together, all weaves together in this very intricate racetrack that requires a lot of setup from the previous turns.
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, like we said at the start of the race, it's Donington is all about consistency. There is not a lot of opportunities here to make a move, like we said. There is probably turn 1 and turn 7 where you can like kind of a dive into it if you are close enough. Otherwise, again, it's taking opportunities on other drivers' mistakes, basically.
We've seen previously here, the undercut is very, very effective at Donnington Park. With Shanae pulling it off a few seasons back. Shanae pitted very, very late into the race and was absolutely flying in the latter half. But that was a 90 minutes race. This is only a 60 minutes race.
Yeah, so yeah.
It's a difference, and it's a noticeable difference. The opponents aren't going to be on worse tires for as long, and equally you're going to be on better tires for a little bit longer, relative
like
to the
you
length
just
of the race.
said about Elijah going for the almost full race without pitting, it's normal. It's a race where you can do it. We're gonna struggle a little bit of traction on the last few laps. But still, it's one of those where we can do it, you can do it.
It's a strategy that can pay off, and I mean, right now, according to the positions, we'll look at the position delta. Elijah is only down 1 position, so Elijah may well gain from this, as Elijah is right on the back of Ivanov. Kelly lost the position in the pit lane, so Elijah did jump Kelly in the pit lane. Is almost certainly going to jump at least 1 or 2 more drivers.
And going back to that discussion also that we were having about the pit stops, for the top 2 right now, especially for Julian, it's the time to make the call. So until now it was a little bit difficult to choose to pit or not, because the middle field was not yet pitted. Right now only basically the top 5 are waiting for the pits. Well, not anymore, basically. It just went into pits as we were talking. But it was the moment, see, because Julian was just reaching before a pack of blue flags, which is going to happen now to Ark. So I think he made the wrong call here, Ark. He should have pitted, because exactly he's going to catch the blue flags on a track where he's not one of the easiest one, not as difficult, but not easy one to get over the blue flags. You're gonna lose some time. And
according to the pit stop lengths, it looks like quite a few drivers probably did not change tires. I'm seeing a lot of 55-second pit stops and then a lot of 60-second pit stops. So we may have a very diverse strategy here today.
The only thing I did personally this week.
Oh, and that's Elijah hitting Ivanov off into turn 1. I'm sorry to interrupt there, but late braking from Elijah just taps the rear of the Lamborghini and rejoins in front of Kelly. Nearly another incident. Kelly absolutely hitting the anchors on that Ferrari, managing to avoid that, but that's going to be a big penalty for Elijah. Both an unsafe rejoin and spinning out another driver. His strategy was working very, very well up until then, but now that almost certainly has ruined a good portion of his race, if not the entirety of it. And Just Shay pits. Still waiting for Ark to pit, but still, even 35 minutes into this race, we're seeing incidents, we're seeing mistakes, and that could well be down to the fact that Elijah's on very, very old tires. Elijah's already been on this tire for 35 minutes. So, it could play influence. As well, I have to go evaluate the incident that we just watched. It's almost certainly on Elijah, which is very, very unfortunate for him. It's gonna be costly. Just Shay in the pit lane might gain a few positions here, if he is lucky. Kelly is going to be a little bit nervous, no doubt. Kelly lost a whole bunch of time to Ivanov from that incident. He did have to absolutely mash the brakes. Just Shay leaving the pit lane now. Is he going to gain it to Hutama, or is he going to lose the position to Hutama? He's going to lose the position. Ollie's not going to overtake him, so Just Shay emerging right where he started, getting a little bit of time, so he's not lost as much time. This is the big influence right now, though. Is Sarabin going to gain the position to Arct as Arct enters the pit lane? This is going to be close between the drivers. Arct's been in the pit lane for 25 seconds already, so there's only about 20 seconds left in the pit lane. Did Arct set his gaps right, or is he under threat here? It's going to be very, very close as the Bluey Ferrari rounds at that final corner. Arct is getting moving. They're going to go side by side through turn 1 at this rate, I think, as Arct just getting ready to exit the pit lane. Now onto the track, and that is the Bluey Ferrari and Andrew both gaining the position to Arct. So Arct losing out with that late pit stop. He's going to be on fresh tires, though. He's going to go side by side with Andrew to hold on to what is P4. Side by side still, he is the inside line for the next corner, but he's going to have to back out, and that's Andrew staying in P4. Arct is going to be on fresh tires, though. That could influence it. We were just talking about fresh tires making a huge difference here at Donnington. Drivers in front of him did pit much earlier, so there is always the chance that he can, well, he can gain back this position. But he's going to have to push hard, and he's going to have to push soon as Webby and Thondir make contact. I think Webby, I think it was an incident between them. But yeah, Sarabin pulling off the undercut. Apologies. So gaps are spreading out right now. Sarabin did get the undercut, and now they are running away with the position. So great strategy from the Bluey Ferrari to take P3 from both Andrew and Arct. So not just gaining the position to Arct, but gaining it to Andrew as well. So Andrew's stuck in P4, and if we just look at the position deltas, this should tell you a lot about drivers' stories this race. Sarabin gaining 2 positions, moving up into P3. Julian and Friedrich both holding their positions, neither driver losing or gaining. Andrew had gained P3, but he has lost it now, so he is stuck back into P4, his original starting position. Arct has gone down 2 positions, so he is stuck in P5 from what was a podium finish. Vova still P6. As they started the race, they seem to be ready to end the race, as they have a nice gap both behind and in front. Ivanov moving up 4 positions, so has Kelly. And Elijah losing 1 position will lose more with the penalties. Hutama up 3 positions. Just Shay down 4 positions, thanks to their spin earlier on, getting punted into the chicane. Does no favors to their pace. Flynn Ollie, sorry, in P12, going down 3 positions, so has Kevin just behind them. Webby in P14 has moved up 4 positions, so doing well to get themselves some more points, some much needed, very influential points. Thondir in P15, down 1 position. Anthony up 1 position just behind them. Joe Viper down a position in P17. Hutama with a caution, I think going off the track somewhere. Not losing the position just yet, so I don't think it was anything to write home about. Can go on board and look. And that has allowed Just Shay to get very, very close behind. So lots of drivers at the front of the field gaining lots of positions. We'll just transition back to the racing numbers so you can see who is who better. Jushay could make this position here. It's not out of the realm of possibility. As you can see, just chasing down the Ferrari in front. McLaren getting a great run down the straightaway. They just running less wing. Braking nice and early though, backing out of the move. You can see just how difficult it is to see as there is a car off up ahead. That will be the Aston Martin, the Haas Aston Martin of Oliver Flynn, now giving away in a relatively safe manner. And that does bridge the gap between Hutema and Jushay just that little bit more, as both drivers had to heed caution in that yellow flag zone. White flag, so they are getting warned about a slow driver up ahead. I believe there will be possibly another caution. Jushay tries to make the move, not close enough for it, and will have to stay behind just for now and wait for a better opportunity to make that move. Andrew in P4 closes in on the back of that bluey Ferrari of Sarabin. Sarabin, of course, on the older tires, is not necessarily in a good position here just because they have P3. Andrew's already proven he's willing to make some late dives, he's willing to make risky maneuvers, so that is going to put Sarabin on a little bit of a questionable path here. Do they defend and potentially risk an incident, or do they hope that Andrew stays behind and waits for later on when defending is more optimal? Of course, Arct is right there. And it is going to be a late dive from Andrew, sending it down the inside. Julian with the fastest lap of the race. And now, side by side between the two Ferrari drivers as they go down into the final hairpin. Very late on the brakes from Andrew, nearly collides with the back of the Ferrari. And that's going to allow Arct to get involved, as Arct is going to have a good run down the straightaway. Andrew capitalizing on that wide entry, though, just to carry a little bit of extra speed and keep himself safe from the BMW behind. BMW later on the brakes through turn 1, better on the throttle through turn 1. I think just losing a little bit of time, though, having to lift as they nearly ran wide at the corner. That was potentially a very late move from Andrew there, but just barely missing out and just barely missing the Ferrari in front. Sarabin is going to be having a little bit of worries now with Andrew in his rear view mirror. How are the incidents this race so far, Yuzubi?
So far it was a very clean start. We have 11 incidents so far from the race itself. The usual stuff, you know, a little bit misjudgment on braking points and causing the car in front to spin. So far, let's say clean overall.
That is always good to hear. Any sort of penalties you think might influence the race results?
I think car 88, so Hark is gonna, for sure, about the situation with the blue flag, we'll remember. He's gonna get a penalty for that because he pushed the blue flag off track while overtaking him.
I don't know if he's going to lose the position for that. It definitely means he can't really fight for P4 or P3.
Yeah, if he eventually got the position of P3, he's gonna get a penalty for the contact there.
I think he's far enough from Vova behind to be safe if he does receive the penalty.
Elijah, car number 40 also, with that contact that we just saw on turn 1.
Yeah, that contact is going to be brutal for him.
But we are enjoying to see the fight between the Cirebon and Andrew, P3, P4. We just saw the one. I didn't see if you catch it.
We did, yeah.
Of the pit. That was a hard fight, but fair.
Sarabin making that undercut work, and I mean, it's a demonstration that while ACC does favor the overcut, you can absolutely make other strategies work depending on what you decide to do. There's no one-size-fits-all with how GT racing goes. There may well be a best strategy, but it's not the best strategy for every situation, and Serabin has taken advantage of this situation to, well, to take themselves up into P3, obviously gaining 2 positions, because, mind you, Serabin was P5 when they entered the pit lane, so they gained 2 positions with the pit stop, and Arct, not only did Arct lose those positions, both of the 2 positions, but he's gotten himself a penalty by staying out, because obviously he wouldn't have had to deal with that blue flag if he had
Exactly.
pitted
So
earlier.
just as we were talking when Julian pit, when I was talking about it, I think the mistake there was for Ark to keep going longer. Like I was saying, sometimes catching the blue flags is not a good call. Look, it's always a difficult call to make, of course, but sometimes it works, but sometimes you have a difficult time. And I think at this track, especially with the, let's say, the first sector is a clean sector to make overtakes on blue flags, but it's still a fast sector, so it's gonna be difficult for a blue flag to give away in the way with those fast turns. And so I think it was a wrong call. I think Ark didn't check his position on track relative to the other drivers. I think Julian and Lucas, for example, did a perfect work on that side.
It's always difficult to call. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not easy to be able to, like, as a driver, pay attention to your fuel, pay attention to your strategy, pay attention to what everyone else is doing, pay attention to where drivers are on track. You got blue
Yeah.
flags to deal with. Is it a good blue flag? Is it a more unsteady blue flag? There's so much to think about as a racing driver that really, I mean, you can go in after the fact and say, oh, you should have done this, oh, you should have done that, this was a silly mistake, but
There is going always to be ifs after a race is over.
yeah, I mean, there's always a lot to think about as a driver in the car. And while we as
And be
commentators
sure
get a nice overview of everything, they don't have the full
exactly.
story.
Be sure today we are watching from the outside, so we have a clear view of what's going on. But exactly, if you were ourselves on the car itself, we could have made the same mistake. So
I
like
know
you
I
said, there's a
personally have at Donnington ran wide many times at the first corner. I've made strategy mistakes at this track. This track is not easy to get right, and it's the biggest difference between a good driver and a great driver. As Hutama collides with Just Shay, I thought he went off the road there. No, Just Shay and Hutama just make contact. Might have been a bump and pass, might have just been a little bit of both drivers trying to merge into the same spot on track. Whatever the case, Just Shay has come out on top, and that will be him up into P10. So, we'll see if Just Shay can run away with it. He should be the quicker driver in terms of actual lap time. Whether or not that damage is going to influence anything is to be seen. The battle's still very, very close for P3. Neither of these drivers have wanted to separate. Neither of these drivers have given in to the temptation to decrease their pace and take it easy. And I think we lost Yuzubi again. No, you're still here.
no, I'm just checking on the contact between Josh and forget the name, number 30, Dama.
It looked worse than I think it was.
It was, let's say, a little bit aggressive, yes, but a fair move.
And I mean, a lot of the time in GT racing, you get a lot of contact between drivers. I mean, these cars are built for it. You've got bumpers, you've got nice side panels. These cars aren't as frail and vulnerable as an open wheeler. They're not as breakable as, say, a hypercar or an LMP car. These are sturdy cars. They're built for racing, and they're built for some quite intense racing. I think
Look, always,
the racing we see in the sim is more tame than real.
Yeah, of course, because you know, even the stewards know that this when you are doing a race and checking the incidents. If you allow the field, because we, like you said, GT racing, we expect some door banging at some point. It's expected, like you said, the cars are built for that. It's not like, for example, F1 where you can't touch each other. It's not quite the same. So we know that sometimes doors will bang. But at the same time, especially the stewards team, we cannot allow
There's a
lot
limit.
of this. There is a limit, exactly. Because if you start allowing a lot of door bagging, you know that it's gonna have the snowball effect and everyone's going for incidents. And
Yeah, and obviously in real life, I mean, while I did just point out real life, they are driving a lot more rubbing doors. Not only do they not have to deal with netcode, but also it's real stewards, and you don't have all of the same angles that you have with a game like ACC. Because I mean, in
of course,
ACC, we can always go back, we can look at the incident from every single spot on track, but in real life, you don't have that. You have to give some benefit of doubt. As Andrew, very late on the brakes, a little bit too late on the brakes, makes contact with Serabin and loses the position after gaining it instantly, so stuck in P4, now under threat. The Bluey Ferrari going to defend the inside, but you can see just crawling on the apex, and arced now side by side with Andrew for P4. It's not over yet, and the BMW should get a good launch down the main straight. Andrew slots in behind the behind Serabin, very, very close between him and the BMW. A little bit of a slide on exit. That's going to mean Arced gets a great run out of the corner, and it's very, very close. You can see just how close the pair of drivers are as Arced tries to make the move down into the old hairpin. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough of a run out of that first corner for him to make that move, but maybe out of turn 4, maybe down turn 5 into turn 6 and 7. Will he be able to make it stick? No, he's not close enough for it. Andrew closes in on the Bluey Ferrari, though. Serabin losing just a little bit of time through that little straightaway of a section. And that is going to allow Andrew to close in, making a mistake out of the corner. And that is arced straight back onto the Ferrari's bumper. And you can see just how close they are behind. And Arced staying behind just for now, but he might make a dive into the chicane, or into the hairpin. But a great exit from Andrew is going to mean that Arced would have to make a very, very risky maneuver, and he's just not up to the challenge of it, for no doubt, other than safety reasons. That was a great launch from Andrew to absolutely fly out of the chicane and hold the position. Arced running wide. He's not going to have a chance to fight for the position because he's off the track. And now, 2 seconds back, that leaves Andrew and Serabin free to fight amongst themselves with a very comfortable gap now behind.
again, another example, as we said before, the consistency here was going to be key, so Arc just put himself out of contention for now. Not a mistake from himself.
And not only that, but with the upcoming penalty, that means Arced is now within striking range of Vova. Obviously, it's going to be probably a 10-second penalty for taking out the blue flag driver, which means he does need 10 seconds to Vova behind him. Vova has a 9-second gap right now. That, I think, is probably going to be the biggest influence that we're going to see from that. It's less so about freeing Andrew to fight, although certainly Andrew is now free to fight. But more so about the fact that he's just let Vova into the fight. And while Vova's nowhere near Arced right now, it's close enough.
And we just saw a stewards, we saw a contact between P2 and one of the blue flags. There was almost an incident. We got very lucky there.
It's an easy track as a passing driver or as a blue flag to make a mistake here. It's not the easiest track for the blue flags to give way. We did warn a little bit during the briefing that you're going to have to give some leniency.
Yeah, so not gonna lie, this one was one of those where you can clearly see that the overtaking car was not expecting the blue flags to be so slow. So Lucas just went for the inside line where he was expecting the car to move. Luckily, none of them lost any time or incident itself, so all fine.
Shanae has gratefully quoted you saying, "All the time you need to be careful."
Yes, he did. As we always said, of course, and Shanae know better than anyone else that it's always frustrating when you are leading a race or on the top positions and we try to overtake a blue flag. Of course, you want them to jump out of the track. And like you said, this is a sim, but if it was real life, a car cannot just jump out of the track. It's frustrating sometimes, especially when you are fighting for the top positions. And if the other guy, for example, is doing an undercut or something, every second counts. And again, it's still an overtaking car to be always safe. It's tricky sometimes. That's not gonna lie about it. It's tricky and it's sometimes track related. And let's also not forget that when you see real life GT, let's say, uh, you know that all of those drivers are most likely on the same skill level, which on the sim, you know, it's not happening every single time.
Yeah, we're nowhere near. Well, I shouldn't even say that anymore because we are closing in on it, but we aren't esports pace yet.
Look, it's not even about the which kind of tier of space we have right now.
But we
It's the
have
difference
drivers.
within
We
the
have
field.
drivers at the front of the field, close to esports pace, and drivers towards the back of the field, maybe 2-3 seconds off that pace. And when I mean, you think about it, it's not a lot of time difference. But when you actually see the speed difference to the corners, because
Oh yeah, it's big.
it's
That's the
about
main thing.
30, 40 kilometers per hour difference. And for all my Americans, if we have any Americans watching, that's about 20 miles per hour, give or take. That's a very big difference in speed for the drivers to cope with. And then add on top of that, some of the blue flags decide that they want to slow down. Now that 40 kilometer per hour deficit becomes 50 or 60 in it.
Sorry, you have a fight for P10 right now.
It gets,
Just
yeah, I'm watching it. It can be quite something.
yeah, it is indeed. It is like you said, and you're talking about 20 miles an hour, but sometimes even like 2 or 3 miles an hour difference, it's already a crazy difference. And you know that. You know that most of the people in front of the field, most of the times you are not even thinking about braking points or speed through a corner or whatever. You are basically just following the car in front. So you are basically trusting into the other driver because you know they have the pace. You know the lines that they are going to do, and sometimes you are just on the flow, just following.
We
So
will
when you
go back for a
catch,
second and see. I think Andrew attempted to make an overtake into turn one. No. It showed Andrew in front for a minute there, but Andrew was not in front, so strange on the software here. We
well, blue
are,
flags it's always going to be weird
yeah,
sometimes.
blue flag. I mean, being a blue flag is not the easiest thing in the world.
Oh, it's not.
I've seen it. I've seen it in real racing. I've seen it in the sim. I've had first-hand experience as a blue flag in the sim, both as a slower class car, and Andrew makes contact with the Porsche blue flag. So we were just talking about blue flags, and there is another incident between a passing driver and the blue flagged car. And that's now Andrew out of contention with,
And actually, Arc behind did the same contacting also.
did they both make contact with the Porsche?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sarabin is going to be, I mean, no doubt happy to be out of the danger zone. That was a strange incident.
Another example. We were just talking about it. It's difficult sometimes, and this was a tricky situation, especially seeing that they have been fighting for these P3 positions for so long that none
So
of them won close time.
yeah, Porsche ran wide and, oh, Porsche lost it rejoining the track and hit into Arced. So the Porsche got collected by Andrew and then lost control of their car and crashed into Arced. So it's all sort of spurned on by that original contact between Andrew and the Porsche. Now we are
Yeah,
on to the
for
final
what?
lap here, and that does mean Sarabin is completely free. And obviously, I mean, I get where Andrew is coming from there. Andrew sees a blue flag in front. He's battling closely. It's almost to the end of the race. You don't
Yeah, but
want
still,
to give anything this close to
still,
the end of the race. Because it's,
it's still missing where is at fault because he needs to still leave the space because the blue
yeah,
flag is still rejoining, and unfortunately, he completely failed to leave the space
I mean,
and caused an incident.
you lose 0.4 of a second and you are out of the battle. And I think that was on his mind more than the safety of passing that blue flag driver. and it's cost him big time. We'll go on board with Stuckrath for the final lap of racing here at Donnington Park. And I think it's going to be a very convincing win from the one-time champion, from the previous season champion, going on to fight and try and make it 2 championships in a row, getting past the blue flag nice and safely. 14-second gap, so even with a penalty, it's unlikely Julian will lose this position. And now through the final corner for the final time this race. And it's going to be Julian taking P1 here at Donnington for our 3rd round of racing. His teammate Friedrich will follow him across the line, flashing the lights. I think he is quite happy with that performance. Runs almost a perfect race, almost no mistakes. Friedrich going through the final corner now will cross the line and join his teammate. I think they will probably slow down for pictures. Serabin will take P3 almost certainly. Jashay fighting with Ivanov for P9, so it's not over just yet in the middle of the field. It's not necessarily going to be such an easy move though, as they go bumper to bumper through turn 8, now into turn 9. Turn 9, very tricky corner. Is of course the chicane, very easy to get it wrong. Jashay thinks about making the move down the inside, sticks the nose in, but doesn't keep it there. Ivanov is going to have to look behind him, but Jashay losing time from that. I think it would have been better if he stayed behind and tried to make a move down into the hairpin, because now it's going to take a very risky, monumental dive in order to take away P9 from the Lamborghini driver. He tries to put the nose in, but there is no way for him to make that move. It's going to be Ivanov in P9. Jashay stuck in P10. It's unfortunate for him. Ivanov will be very happy. Ivanov having gained tons of positions this race. And we'll just transition to blank so you can see the ACC official leaderboard. So it's Stuckrath winning the race for the 2nd time in a row, driving side by side with his teammate. Through turn 12 right now. I think this is like the hairpin, if I'm not mistaken. So, I nearly did a full extra lap, and there is Serabin, who took P3, going off the track and retiring. Friedrich will be doing some donuts for us on camera, I think. Maybe? No. No donuts from him. Most drivers in the pit lane right now. So, we'll go just on board with Kelly, so we have someone rolling. Stuckrath P1, Friedrich P2, Serabin in P3, Arct in P4, Andrew in P5, Vova P6, Kelly P7, Melwin P8, Ivanov in P9, Jashay in P10, Hutama P11, Suffocating in P12, Kevin in P13, Thondir in P14, P15 is Anthony in the Porsche. P16 is Viper. P17 is Ozduru. P18 is Yadav. And 19 is Flynn. And rounding out the points finish is Antonio in P20. So a great race today. Some wonderful battles. Lots of very strange incidents that will no doubt play an influence into the racing results, as Kelly will give us a nice showcase of that Ferrari livery from all angles. But I hope you will join us next week for the next round of racing. I think, what track are we racing at next week? Let me take a look and see. We will be racing at Paul Ricard for 60 minutes. Nice clear weather as well. So, should be quite interesting. But without further ado, you all take care, and we'll see you on the next one.